Amazing revenge exposed, Billionaire's daughter's hidden lie transforms lives 2 years later. Sarah Greene sat alone in the dim light of her living room, cradling a steaming cup of coffee while her mind raced with thoughts of shame and betrayal. In Maplewood, whispers and rumors were as common as the rustling leaves in autumn, and her own name was tangled in a web spun by someone with a cruelty she had never understood. 2 years ago, her world tilted on its axis when Olivia Sinclair chose to shield her own insecurities with a devastating lie that obliterated Sarah's career and sent her ambitions crashing down. Even now, as she prepared her 10-year-old daughter Emily for the science fair and event, Emily was bubbling with excitement, for Sarah felt the weight of a past that refused to let her breathe. Each day as a teacher, she poured every bit of herself into her lessons, hoping to ignite a similar passion for science in her students. But that flame, once bright, flickered with uncertainty. The pit in her stomach swirled with frustration, her own dreams lay dormant while she fought just to make ends meet. A teacher's salary barely covered the bills, leaving little room for mistakes. An old image of a Professor Hartman flooded her mind. He had once believed in her potential, he had seen the fire within her. But it was hard to feel that flame anymore, especially now with Olivia's shadow lurking around every corner of her unfulfilled aspirations. Juxtaposed with her loving relationship with Emily, who envisioned curing diseases and inventing futuristic technologies, Sarah grappled with an overwhelming sense of inadequacy. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The tighter the grip of financial strain, the louder the echo of Sarah's questions grew. She had a choice before her: seek revenge or teach Emily about forgiveness. Yet the thoughts of facing Olivia during the upcoming academic conference, the same conference where Emily would showcase her groundbreaking project, rattled her. What if she confronted Olivia? Would it ignite an old fire or only shatter their fragile foundation of happiness? The mere idea left her battling a surge of anxiety, jaws clenched, palms sweaty. The chaos within her amplified as she considered the current inequalities that riddled their town. She hesitated, feeling the battle within intensify like a storm gathering strength at sea. The moral dilemma weighed heavily on her: was her own ambition worth her daughter's values? Her mind raced, circumstances had forced her to be practical, yet every fiber of her being roared for justice. With Emily relying on her, she pushed down memories of humiliation but felt them clawing at her thoughts, demanding recognition. And then it was the moment that paralyzed her with anguish. She stood before her mirror, rehearsing words aimed at Olivia in the quiet solitude of her home. The tension in her muscles became a haunting reminder that her dreams demanded clarification. She was at an intersection, but the streets loomed dark and twisted ahead. Choices filled her mind with a cacophony of dread and longing, the faint echo of her mentor's encouragement only adding fuel to the fire ignited by Olivia's manipulation. As Sarah prepared to face the day, she realized the confrontation with Olivia was not just about settling old scores, it was about carving a path forward for Emily, a path that would lead them both into brighter futures or deeper despair. Torn between the past and the hope for what could be, she held her breath, stepping toward the unknown where justice ended. Forgiveness clashed violently in her heart. The stakes had never been higher, and the world was watching. The morning light streamed through the window, casting a golden hue across Sarah's worn kitchen table. As she watched Emily eagerly outline her presentation on the solar system, Sarah felt a surge of pride wash over her, temporarily overshadowing her worries. Emily's enthusiasm radiated with a pureness that reminded her of her own childhood ambitions, a time when dreams seemed limitless and nothing mattered but the curiosity of finding answers. But beneath the surface of her admiration lay a turbulent mix of emotions. Today wasn't just any day, it was a crucial juncture that would lead her closer to Olivia or center her awareness on forging a new identity, one where the shadows of the past no longer dictated the path ahead. The thought gnawed at her: leaning too heavily into the past could disrupt Emily's innocence and aspirations. This was about more than just revenge, it was about protecting the bright light that was her daughter. As the morning wore on, Sarah found herself tapping into the familiar practice of visualization. She remembered Professor Hartman's advice during her formative years: the power of clarity in intention. She closed her eyes, envisioning a future where she reclaimed her dreams, where each step she took resonated with purpose. Perhaps it was time to dust off her ambition and reignite the intellectual fervor he had once nurtured. The classroom had become a sanctuary, yet it now felt like a confining cage for the potential that remained unfulfilled. Thoughts spiraled into action when she decided to revisit the classroom she had loved so dearly. She made her way to the school, clutching her notes, each page infused with the inspiration her students needed. Upon arrival, she was met with familiar faces. The air felt electric as she walked through the halls, old friends and colleagues exchanging warm smiles. But one glance at the bulletin board, featuring a photo of Olivia from last year's conference at the very heart of her demise, reminded Sarah of how easily illusions of self-worth could shatter under the weight of another's betrayal. In her classroom, Sarah immersed herself in preparations for the day. The lessons transformed into a canvas. With a renewed passion, she began sharing interactive experiments that showcased scientific principles, using every resource she could muster to ignite the minds around her. To the students' delight, her enthusiasm was contagious, bridging the gap of disillusionment she felt within herself. Their bright faces rekindled something deep inside a burgeoning resolve. As lunchtime approached and the sound of laughter echoed from the cafeteria, Sarah paused. The realization struck her: her ambition didn't need to dim in the face of others' betrayals. She was still equipped with the tools of reason, integrity, and belief. She would not become defined by Olivia but rise above, teaching Emily the strength of resilience. Suddenly, Emily popped into the room, cheeks flushed with excitement. "Mom, can we practice my presentation together?" she asked, eyes shining brightly. "Of course, sweetheart," Sarah replied, kneeling to meet her daughter's gaze. Their shared moment bonded them more closely. The bond served as a beacon for Sarah, a signal that the choice was clearer than ever. She would guide Emily toward courage, while for her own part, it was a smoldering conflict demanding resolution. The inner conflict was palpable, a storm brewing not just for her but for the inevitable confrontation with Olivia lingering on the horizon. Should she maintain this newfound purpose or risk plunging back into the darkness of resentment and anger? The thought haunted her as they rehearsed. She felt the weight of her journey juxtaposed with tomorrow's uncertainties. The path forward wasn't crystal clear, but she could forge ahead with conviction. As if summoned by her thoughts, Emily suddenly exclaimed, "What if we create a model of the solar system together? It would be so cool." Sarah's heart fluttered with the possibility. Could this be the project that helped mend their lives and perhaps even transform the conference into an opportunity for growth rather than revenge? "Let us do it, Em," she said, determination fueling her words. But as the day drew to a close and the project began to take shape, an unexpected message lit up her phone, an invitation to meet Olivia before the conference. The moment of truth beckoned ominously, and the weight of choice loomed heavily as Sarah's resolve was put to the test. Would she break through into forgiveness, or would she sink into the depths of confronting the one who had wronged her? The stakes were higher than ever, and Sarah faced her past once again, teetering on the brink of transformation. Sarah stared at the glowing screen of her phone, the words flashing before her eyes like a taunt. An invitation to meet Olivia. The irony wasn't lost on her. Just when she had begun to feel grounded in her purpose, the shadows of her past re-emerged to test her resolve. She inhaled deeply, trying to steady the tempest swirling within her. "Mom." Emily's voice broke through her reverie. The model of the solar system lay sprawled across the table, a colorful amalgamation of painted foam balls and wire. "Are you okay?" Forcing a smile, Sarah nodded, even as the unease settled heavily in her chest. "Just thinking, sweetie. About our project and how amazing it's going to be." "Yeah. Can we finish the sun now?" Emily bounced on her toes, urgency glowing in her bright eyes. Her enthusiasm was contagious, and for a moment, it distracted Sarah from the gravity of her invitation. They resumed their work, but in the back of her mind, thoughts of Olivia simmered. Who was she now? Was she the hurt woman, perpetually shackled to past grievances, or could she be an empowered educator, one who inspired others while learning to forgive? As they crafted the final touches on the model, Sarah felt a flicker of her old self, the one who had ambitions and ideals, who dreamed of nurturing young minds. They glued on the last piece, and Emily squealed in delight. In that moment, Sarah realized this project wasn't just about science, it was a manifestation of her determination to reshape their future, to transform the remnants of their shattered past into something whole. Later that night, a sense of dread hung in the air like fog. Sarah sat at her kitchen table, staring at the invite again. The pain of betrayal twisted inside her like a coiled spring, but she couldn't deny that a part of her was curious. What would Olivia say? What is left to be said after all this time? She pushed herself to recall the lessons she had shared with her students earlier that day, the principles of gravity, the cause and effect that govern the universe. And once again, Sarah was forced to question, could she apply those same laws to her own life? Was it possible that confronting Olivia might allow her to break free from the gravitational pull of resentment? With fierce determination, she opened her notes and began jotting down her thoughts. What would she say? What questions would she pose? The act of writing brought clarity. A novel realization dawned upon her. Maybe this meeting could be about seeking understanding rather than seeking revenge. But the night lingered on, and doubt crept back in. She thought of Emily, of the bright future she envisioned for her. Would confronting Olivia damage that? The cacophony of self-doubt threatened to drown out her resolve. As she prepared for bed, images of Olivia flooded her mind, the friendships, the laughter, and, ultimately, the betrayal. Each memory was a ghostly reminder that healing did not occur without facing the wounds. Seated on the edge of her bed, Sarah took a deep breath. The decision was looming. Tomorrow would bring a confrontation not easily traversed but necessary for her rebirth. As she drifted off to sleep, she felt the weight of choice heavy on her, a powerful tension coiling around her resolve. The next day would dawn with more than just light. It would shine on the possibility of closure, on the fragile threads of forgiveness. But would she be able to grasp them, or would they slip through her fingers in the clutches of unresolved anger? The sunrise would reveal more than just a new day. A turning point awaited her once she faced Olivia. The moment of truth had arrived, and in the shadow of uncertainty, Sarah stood at the precipice of tremendous change. Would she lean into forgiveness or drown in resentment? The answer was just within reach, and it frightened her to imagine what she might uncover. The morning light filtered through Sarah's curtains, illuminating the mess of thoughts swirling in her mind. She lay awake, her heart racing as the reality of her upcoming meeting with Olivia crept over her. This was merely about an old friendship. It became a crossroads in her life. Today, she would confront the specters of her past, and the outcome could either solidify her growth or unravel everything she had worked to rebuild. As she prepared herself both mentally and physically, Sarah's mind flickered back to Emily's science project, the joy radiating from her daughter's face. That pure enthusiasm ignited a small flame within her. As she zipped up her blouse, Sarah grappled with the duality of her identity, the nurturing mother and the wounded friend. Could the two coexist? The clock ticked slowly, almost mocking her urgency. With every passing moment, she felt the weight of unresolved emotions bear down. Hadn't Olivia's betrayal already taken enough from her? Was she strong enough to reclaim her narrative, or was she simply prolonging her own suffering? Arriving at the quaint cafe where they agreed to meet, Sarah surveyed the space filled with laughter and soft chatter. The aroma of coffee hung in the air, but her stomach twisted. Each table represented a moment of shared joy, and she and Olivia had once filled those spaces with laughter that echoed against the walls. Could they do it again? When she spotted Olivia at a table in the corner, her heart leaped and then constricted. The years had changed her, a confident demeanor surrounded the familiar features. As they locked eyes, Olivia's expression flitted from surprise to something unreadable. There was a tension hanging heavy in the air, thick enough to slice through. "Thank you for coming," Sarah managed, her voice barely breaking through the noise around them. She slid into the chair opposite Olivia, each movement robotic, rehearsed a stark contrast to the chaos inside her. "So, how have you been?" Olivia's effort at casual was clear, yet all Sarah could hear was the ache of history lingering beneath the surface. "I've been getting by. Emily has me busy with school projects," Sarah started, her voice light but her gaze intense. The small talk felt hollow, a warm-up before the storm. The real conversation loomed ahead, a reckoning that needed to happen. Silence stretched between them, filled with shadows of their shared past. Sarah felt her pulse quicken, the urge to retreat tugged at her. However, this was the moment she had to confront her fears. "Olivia, I wanted to talk about what happened. About us." Olivia stiffened, her eyes narrowing. "I thought we were past that." "Are we?" Sarah pressed, her heart pounding. "Because it doesn't feel resolved. I still feel angry and hurt. We used to be so close." From Olivia's expression, it was clear the confrontational approach was unexpected. Still, that was the tension Sarah sought to break. She had spent so long holding on to the bitterness, hoping to protect herself, but that same defense was now suffocating her. "I never meant to hurt you, Sarah," Olivia whispered, the sincerity in her voice causing a flicker of vulnerability to crack through Sarah's resolve. "I made a mistake. I should have owned it when it mattered." Yet you didn't, Sarah replied, a mix of pressure and relief washing through her. She could feel the layers of her own anger peeling back, revealing a deep-seated yearning for understanding and closure. Could she really extend the grace of forgiveness? The answer hung tantalizingly on the edge of her resolve, but the conversation wasn't over. As Olivia opened up about her remorse, Sarah felt her motivations shifting from retribution to reconciliation. Yet, the dreaded fear that this was simply an easy way out persisted. As Olivia spoke, words of regret spilling out like confessions, Sarah's heart raced with the infinite possibilities of where the exchange could lead. It was this moment that could either heal her soul or plunge her into the depths of despair again. Did she have it in her to forgive? If she let go, would it change who she was? The answer felt as daunting as the question itself, and as she took a deep breath to speak again, a realization washed over her. Relief and fear could swim side by side, but she would have to act on her true desires to find genuine freedom. A gentle but firm resolution settled within her. This would be the day she faced her past, and whatever unfolded next would be a testament to the woman she aimed to become. But the uncertainty lingered. Would confrontation strengthen their bond, or would it tear them apart irreparably? The stakes felt immense, and as she leaned in to speak again, the outcome felt more significant than she had anticipated. In that charged moment, she understood that the real journey was only just beginning. Sarah's heart raced as she prepared to speak, the ambient sounds of the cafe fading into a dull hum. It felt like standing at the precipice of a vast, unknown chasm. She had held on to her anger for so long, using it as a shield against the pain, but now it felt more like a prison than a guard. Could she dismantle that prison today? Olivia, she began, her tone steadier than she felt. I want to be honest. For years, I felt like I was lost after the fallout. Your absence in my life became a constant reminder of what I thought I had lost. But I can't keep allowing this anger to define who I am. Each word carved through her self-imposed barriers, creating space for vulnerability. Olivia's expression softened, but the tension held firm between them. I understand, she replied, her voice quieter now, as though afraid to break the fragile truths they were forging. I was selfish. I thought isolating from that chapter of my life would free me. I never considered how it would affect you. The regret-laced Olivia's words felt genuine, and for the first time, Sarah saw the weight of guilt on her friend's face, a reflection of the burden they both carried. Sarah's fist clenched unconsciously on the table. This moment demanded authenticity, yet hesitation snagged her thoughts like sticky cobwebs. Could she truly forgive, knowing that the ghost of betrayal still loomed large? Did the potential for renewed friendship outweigh the risks of being let down again? Forgiveness feels monumental, she admitted quietly, almost to herself. I'm afraid if I open that door, I'll walk right back into the darkness, a place that has haunted me for years. Sarah's palms were clammy as she fought against the impulse to retreat into her defenses. It was an impulse she had controlled for too long. Olivia leaned in, her gaze earnest. I can't change the past, but I want to be part of your future, if you let me. I'm willing to do the work it takes together. The word together echoed in Sarah's mind, a stark contrast to the isolation she had felt after Olivia's betrayal. There was a tempting freedom in collaboration, in trusting someone again, but at what cost to her own heart. It was not just about Olivia, it was about Sarah's journey towards self-acceptance and the kind of person she wanted to become. As the moment stretched, an urgent realization struck her. This was not just a conversation about forgiveness, this was a conversation about Sarah reclaiming her narrative. She had spent so much time allowing others to dictate her emotions, her worth. Would choosing to forgive allow her to reclaim her power? Maybe, she started slowly, forgiveness is not an act of absolution for you, but a way for me to finally move forward. The words felt foreign yet solid, stepping stones towards a horizon she couldn't fully see yet. Her heart started to beat more steadily, a flicker of hope igniting within. I need time, Olivia. But I want to try to understand, Sarah confessed, allowing the uncertainty of her feelings to wash over her. It was a boundary that neither of them had crossed in years, laden with both fear and possibility. Olivia nodded, relief evident in her features, but as Sarah looked out the cafe window, she understood that the road ahead would be filled with moments of reflection, accountability, and perhaps even heartache. They would both need to navigate their missteps and guilt, working through the complexities that had marred their connection. As they settled into this tentative new phase of their relationship, Sarah felt the weight of past grievances shift slightly. She could see a path emerging, one strewn with challenges, but also brightened by the potential for growth. Each step would require courage, a willingness to embrace discomfort, confronting patterns that had shaped her reactions. But just as clarity began to settle over her thoughts, an unexpected figure entered the cafe, one who threatened to shatter the fragile hope she had started to cultivate. Standing at the door, sharply dressed, was someone from her past who had the power to uproot everything she was trying to build. Sarah's pulse quickened, her heart leaping into her throat. The confrontation was far from over, and now, the next layer of her journey was dawning before her. The moment of truth approached rapidly. She would have to face not only Olivia but the ghosts she had tried so hard to escape. Could she withstand it this time? The stakes had never been higher, and with every heartbeat, the tension mounted. As Sarah's eyes locked onto the familiar figure, her breath hitched, the air thick with unspoken memories. It was Mark, the once infallible businessman who had orchestrated the betrayal she thought she'd buried deep within herself. Dressed in an impeccably tailored suit that emphasized his confident demeanor, he confidently strode into the cafe, drawing glances from patrons but focusing solely on Sarah. Panic surged through her. Each step he took was a jolt of electricity, igniting fears she thought had dimmed. She had resigned herself to the past, convinced she had moved forward. But now, confronted by the embodiment of her heart, that effort felt precarious, like balancing on a slack rope stretched over a chasm. "Sarah," he called, a trace of arrogance in his voice as he approached. The weight of his presence bore down on her heart, squeezing it with familiar apprehension. "It's been a while." Olivia instinctively turned towards Sarah, concern etched on her face. "Are you okay?" The question registered in Sarah's mind, but her focus was ensnared by Mark. She needed to find her voice. She couldn't let fear drown out her resolve. Taking a deep breath, she straightened her posture, willing herself to project strength. "What do you want?" It wasn't a question, it was a declaration. Mark smirked, a smirk that had once set her heart ablaze but now felt like poison. "I came to see if you're ready to talk about your future, my dear. I believe you have something of mine." The implication hung in the air, a fog of threat and manipulation. Memories assaulted her, moments of trust twisted into deceit, dreams turned to ashes. Anger welled within her, dangerously close to spilling over. But amidst the turmoil, an ember of resolve sparked. "No," she said, her voice firmer than she anticipated. "You don't get to dictate my future." At that moment, she felt just a flicker of who she was becoming, the growth that had begun to take root in her heart during her conversation with Olivia. Could the pain inflicted by Mark become fuel for her emergence, a catalyst for her growth? Mark didn't back down. Instead, he stepped closer, eyebrows raised, as if to challenge her. "You think you can just move on? You don't understand the game we're playing. You're still entangled, sweetheart." His words reverberated in her mind, but now they felt less like chains and more like a rough patch she could navigate. Could she transform that fury into clarity? "I'm not entangled," she fired back, her heartbeat echoing in her ears. "You underestimated my ability to break free. I will not be silenced by your threats or your old games." Mark's expression morphed, curiosity blending with begrudging respect. For a moment, she saw a glimpse of doubt flicker in his eyes. It was exhilarating. "Interesting," he replied, a smirk creeping back. "But it will take more than words to escape me. We both know that. I'm not the only one with cards in this game." With those words hanging in the air, an unsettling realization washed over her. There was more to this than just a confrontation. Mark's presence echoed back to old deals and entanglements she thought resolved. Did he hold a secret that could unravel what she had begun to stitch back together? "I will find out if it takes every ounce of strength I have," she whispered, her internal resolve bolstered with burgeoning clarity. As Mark turned to leave, a lingering tension crackled between them, leaving her heart hammering with a mix of fear and resolve. She turned back to Olivia, whose eyes were wide with shock, but she felt a surge of empowerment. Maybe this encounter, though dreadful, was the turning point she needed to fully embrace her value. Bolstered by this revelation, Sarah contemplated her next steps. The facade Mark wore concealed the true nature of their past dealings, and unraveling those secrets could be essential for her growth. So many fears gripped her, but also new possibilities lay just beyond the horizon. Could she investigate the threads Mark had woven into her past? The path to reclaiming her narrative was strewn with challenges, yet this pivotal confrontation could be the very catalyst for her redemption. With renewed determination, she knew she had to confront her fears, not just for herself but to reclaim her future, facing whatever ghosts might linger from her past. But one question remained: what hidden truths would she unearth and what price would she pay in the process? The cafe felt stifling as the reality of her encounter with Mark settled. Uncertainty hung in the air, amplifying Sarah's resolve to dissect the layers of her past. She had started down this path of self-discovery, and it was dangerous, but she understood that the stakes had escalated. Sarah could still feel the intensity of Mark's gaze. Those eyes that had once inspired trust now bore the weight of treachery. As she sipped her coffee, she could taste the bitterness echoing her thoughts. Could she truly navigate the tangled web he had spun around their lives? The archives of her emotions were worn down by fear and anger, but in their depths lay dormant strength, waiting to be awakened. Sarah. Olivia's voice pierced her concentration. She nodded absent-mindedly. I need to find out what he is really up to. Olivia frowned, gripping her cup tighter. And if he tries to pull you back in? You know how he operates. I've been out long enough, Sarah replied, her tone more defiant than she felt. She had to believe she was stronger now. This time, I'm the one who calls the shots. Determined to regain control, she resolved to meet with trusted allies, people who knew the ins and outs of these corporate games. She pulled out her phone and began scrolling through her contacts, considering who might possess vital knowledge about Mark's operations. Memories flickered, images of late nights spent poring over spreadsheets and deals that had tasted both sweet and bitter. A well of connections had formed, and Sarah intended to draw upon that power. After a few quick deliberations, she decided to reach out to Lisa, an old colleague and a fierce strategist who had risen through the ranks quickly. If anyone knew Mark's recent moves, it would be her. She swiftly drafted a message: can we meet? Need your insights on some past dealings. Once she hit send, anticipation surged through her veins. It felt empowering to take the initiative, although doubt lingered. Would she be able to muster the will to confront the ghost that still haunted her? Ability alone wouldn't guarantee success. She needed an iron will to face whatever Mark had in store. As she waited for a reply, her mind raced through a multitude of scenarios. Mark was not just a specter from her past but a living threat. Did he still have followers ready to jump at his command? The thought sent a shiver down her spine. But if she wanted to dismantle the fortress he had constructed around her life, she needed to confront these fears head-on. The cafe started to empty, the sun dipping lower outside, casting warm hues through the windows. The day transitioned into evening, and with it came a wave of clear determination. Just as her hope began to fade, her phone chimed. Lisa responded affirmatively. They could meet the next day. The prospect filled her with a sense of purpose. This wasn't just about revenge but reclaiming her narrative and shaping her future. Setting the phone down, she took a moment to breathe. Could this be the turning point she had silently yearned for? Without realizing it, her thoughts began weaving a tapestry of strategies and arsenal of knowledge, a reignited sense of agency. They had shared a passion for problem-solving, often reveling in outsmarting opponents in the boardroom. It was time to rekindle that fire and channel it against Mark. With her resolve solidifying, Sarah let herself indulge in the possibility of a future untethered from his claims. But lurking in the back of her mind was a nagging truth: with the impending confrontation, she would have to navigate deceit as deftly as any deal she had closed in the past. Was she truly ready to unveil hidden truths, and at what cost? She left the cafe, the chilly evening air biting at her cheeks, but it invigorated her spirit. Tomorrow would be another step forward, a chance to dig into the depths of her past and emerge, not as a victim, but as a conqueror of her own story. What secrets awaited her in the past, and would they be the key to reclaiming her future? The morning arrived with an electric tension that vibrated beneath Sarah's skin. She had barely slept, her mind a whirlwind of strategic possibilities, half-formed ideas, and memories she needed to unravel. After a quick shower, the cold water stung her body awake and sharpened her focus. Today was a pivotal point, and she needed to make every second count. As Sarah prepared for her meeting with Lisa, she couldn't shake her lingering doubt. Had she truly reinvented herself? Would the woman she was now be enough to face Mark's manipulations head-on? She adjusted her blazer, appreciating its crispness that felt like armor against what lay ahead. Driving to their meeting spot, an upscale cafe known for its discretion, she reminded herself of her newfound purpose. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about empowerment. Yet, the line that separated the two blurred in her mind. Could the same drive that fueled her search for the truth also propel her back into Mark's web? Upon arriving, Sarah spotted Lisa, her presence commanding even from across the room. Lisa's sharp gaze scanned the surroundings, her posture radiating confidence. It had been too long since they'd worked side by side, and Sarah felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. Would Lisa still be the fierce strategist she remembered? Sarah. Lisa greeted, immediately enveloping her in a hug. It's so good to see you. You look great. Thanks. I've been busy. Sarah smiled, but beneath it was an undercurrent of anxiety. They settled into their seats, the sunlight filtering through the large windows, illuminating the worn wood of the tables. So, what is on your mind? Lisa leaned forward, her intensity focusing solely on Sarah. Taking a deep breath, Sarah unfurled her plan, not revealing everything at once, but strategically unveiling her apprehensions about Mark. She discussed the strategies they used to conquer the boardroom, spinning narratives that once formed the backbone of their professional lives. Each shared anecdote reignited the spark of camaraderie, and for the first time, Sarah felt a surge of hope. But Lisa's expression shifted, eyes narrowing slightly. But you can't go in naive, Sarah. Mark has a way of turning the tables. He'll use whatever mental game he can against you. I know, Sarah replied, determination edging her words. That's why I'm here. I need your insight on his current strategies, his weaknesses. Lisa nodded, her expression softening as she leaned back. I've kept an ear to the ground. He has been aggressive in his dealings, but there is a new partner involved, a venture that could expose him if the right information were revealed. Sarah's heart pounded. This was the lead she needed. Tell me more. As Lisa explained the intricacies of Mark's new alliances and the potential backdoor vulnerabilities, Sarah felt her world tilt slightly. A sense of clarity and agency washed over her. She was ready to confront the ghost that had haunted her for too long. The fear that had gripped her increasingly loosened its hold, giving way to strategic planning. The key will be how you position yourself, Lisa emphasized. Draw on your strengths while maneuvering around his tactics. You've always excelled at outsmarting others. Remember the deal with Trail Tech? We secured that with just a few carefully placed questions. Bolstered by Lisa's faith in her, Sarah matched her gaze. I plan to turn the tables. Each word felt like lead poured into a solid foundation. As they prepared to leave, a profound realization struck Sarah. She was not merely entering a battle but reclaiming her narrative, an act that demanded not just tactical skill but the courage to acknowledge her worth. However, as they stepped outside, Sarah's phone buzzed ominously in her pocket. Hesitating, she glanced at the screen and the smile faded. It was a message from Mark. The clock had begun to tick in a way Sarah could not ignore, and the time had come to face him. But how could she combat someone she once trusted, with so much at stake? If you're determined, you will succeed, Lisa said, grounding her. In the moment. Sarah nodded, appreciating the solidarity in her friend's words. Yet, the tension hung. She would have to muster every ounce of strength within to unveil the truth without becoming lost in the shadows of her past. Would she emerge victorious, or would Mark's grip prove unyielding? The moment of confrontation loomed closer, a duality of hope and dread intertwining in ways she could scarcely comprehend. What would the message lead to, and how would it set the stage for the showdown that awaited them? As Sarah walked away from the cafe, her heart raced, each step a reminder of the impending confrontation. The sunlight felt too stark, illuminating not just her path but also the unresolved chaos that lay just beyond her reach. The message from Mark weighed heavily on her, a ghostly whisper beckoning her back into the fog of their past. She paused beneath a sprawling oak tree, its branches casting a web of shadows that mirrored her internal struggles. What could he possibly want? A wave of vulnerability threatened to spill over, but she resisted. This was not the Sarah who cowered beneath Mark's manipulations. She had transformed. She would harness the courage she had unearthed, even if doubt lingered at the edges like a predator waiting to pounce. Pulling out her phone, she opened the message. We need to talk. Meet me at the old office. The text was simple, efficient, characteristics she had always admired about him, now twisted into something sinister. Should she? The thought began swirling, a vortex of hesitation and resolve. A decisive moment unfolded as the words of Lisa echoed in her mind, position yourself. Navigating a confrontation with Mark was akin to playing chess against a grandmaster. She had to be meticulous and strategic. Engaging him would require an elaborate plan, one that leveraged her newfound insight rather than her past vulnerabilities. The 30-minute drive to the old office felt torturous, each minute stretching into an eternity. As she maneuvered through the chaotic streets, Sarah replayed the strategies they had discussed. The lines drawn between empowerment and revenge blurred further. What would it take to transform this encounter into an opportunity for both empowerment and justice? Arriving at the office, a familiar unease settled into her bones. The building loomed like a sentinel of memories, some suffocating, some necessary. Inside, the stark fluorescent lights illuminated the empty workspace where they had once shaped careers and destinies with ambition and fragile trust. Yet today, it was the vacant air that intensified her resolve. Following the trail of dark emotions and strategic recollections, she reached his office door. She didn't knock. Instead, she took a breath, letting the air fill her lungs, an exercise in reclaiming her past. She pushed the door open and stepped inside. Mark sat behind his expensive mahogany desk, an aura of authority combined with an unsettling calmness. His eyes met hers, a flicker of surprise evident but quickly masked. "Sarah. It's been a while," he drawled, his tone honeyed yet laden with underlying menace. "Let us cut the pleasantries, Mark. What do you want?" she stated, not breaking eye contact. To her surprise, his polished demeanor faltered briefly. This was a victory, however small. "I need your help," he said, gesturing as if to soften the blow of what came next. "Things have changed. Business is complicated, and your expertise could be vital." Each word dripped with calculated charm, yet beneath it lurked the familiar cunning that had once entrapped her. Sarah recoiled internally. Help? After all he had done. "You think I would ever assist you?" The question was more abrupt than intended, yet it opened a door she was too sure she wanted to explore. "Things don't have to be adversarial. We could work together again." The shift was astonishing, old patterns re-emerging swiftly. Mark had always been exceptional at weaving webs of manipulation. In that moment, a revelation struck Sarah with breathtaking clarity. He was vulnerable, his empire was in jeopardy. A thrill surged through her, not of revenge but of empowerment. She recognized his desperation, the layers peeling back to expose the truth she had yet to exploit. "Help you?" she echoed, allowing the words to gain weight. "What is in it for me?" The venom in her voice surprised even her, but she pressed onward, standing tall. Would she be the architect of her own victory or tricked into becoming complicit in his resurgence? The tension hung heavy between them, thick as the air in the room. Mark opened his mouth, likely to provide his rehearsed response, but the gleam in Sarah's eyes deterred him. She was not the defeated woman he once knew. She was ready to seize control of the narrative. But as he began to speak, the phone inside her pocket buzzed again, a message from Lisa flooding her with anxious thoughts. Time was running out for more than just a response to Mark. Would she take the plunge into this dangerous game of trust and strategy? The stakes were climbing higher, and as the game of chess intensified, Sarah wondered whether the pieces would align in her favor or fall dramatically apart. Could she play the game without losing herself once more? The next move would define everything. The air crackled with anticipation, both a challenge and a catalyst, as she prepared for what laid ahead. As the door clicked shut behind her, Sarah locked eyes with Mark, swallowing the apprehension that welled in her throat. This was a moment, a chance to confront not just him, but the lingering scars of her past. She would not repeat the mistakes that defined her earlier self, she had evolved. "What is in it for you?" she repeated, her voice steady and challenging. The room felt sterile, yet charged, the shadows of their past looming large, demanding resolution. She was no longer the victim who had hidden from his machinations. Today, she would wield her strength. Mark leaned back, a glimmer of surprise and intrigue flickering in his eyes. "You've always had a talent for negotiation, haven't you? But let us be practical here, Sarah. I'm offering you an opportunity that could redefine your career. And you think I'd trust you after everything?" Her words dripped with skepticism, yet inside, a surge of empowerment coursed through her. For the first time, she held the upper hand. He chuckled, a mix of charm and deception. "What happened between us was a mistake. Sometimes, we all act without considering the consequences." The facade he put up lacked the conviction it once held, and for Sarah, that was all too clear. "That would require me to ignore the consequences of your actions in the past." She folded her arms, determination coursing through her. "I have a daughter to think about. I can't afford to dive into another betrayal." Mark shifted in his chair, assessing her, calculating, as he always had. "We could accomplish great things together. Let us be honest, you're baffled by the complexities of corporate maneuvering in this town, and I know how to navigate them. You need allies. In that moment, she saw a flicker of the old dynamics, where he was masterfully orchestrating the dialogue, trying to reel her in with the false promise of collaboration. Did he believe he could exploit her again? No. Your alliance is a liability, I see that now, Sarah said, each word piercing the tension. You're scrambling to maintain power and haven't you recognized the fact that I've moved on? You can't control everything anymore. The weight of her assertion thickened the air between them. It was liberating to lay bare the truth that had taken her years to reach. Had she always felt this sense of power, this right to dictate her own narrative? A solid confidence ignited within her. Mark straightened, his expression darkening. You think you can take me down alone? You're still bound to this system. Notice the disparities. Your ambitions were always frail in comparison to mine. His arrogance fueled her resolve. If I was still bound by your perception of weakness, then you'd be right. But people like me adapt. I've risen from your shadows, and upon reflection, I see your power is built on crumbling blocks. His gaze narrowed, and for a heartbeat, uncertainty flickered across his features. She recognized it, a whisper of doubt. Had he miscalculated her transformation? Let us make this clear. This time, I'm not playing your game, she stated firmly. The control she had sought for so long felt within grasp. If you want to stay relevant, you need to understand that I'm no longer a pawn in your scheme. A moment of silence engulfed them, a standstill steeped in anticipation. It was exhilarating and terrifying. The weight of choice settled on her shoulders, but her pulse quickened with empowerment. She had reached a point of no return. Mark finally spoke, his voice lower, more assertive. You can't really believe this independence of yours will last. The market is merciless. You'll need someone with clout at your back eventually. That's where you're wrong, Mark, she replied decisively. I don't need your clout or manipulation to forge my path. I am capable of navigating this industry without you. In that defining moment, clarity enveloped her. Each lie he had spun to entrap her in the past was a mere ruse to mask his shortcomings. She could not only survive in this harsh world, she would thrive. Mark's facade faltered completely, the confusion layered with frustration was evident. Are you so confident it won't backfire? People won't follow you if they can't trust your decisions. Think carefully about who you side with. He was grasping for straws, attempting to re-establish his previous dominion, but his grip weakened with each passing second. I've learned to navigate trust, she asserted. That doesn't require your approval. With those words, she began to withdraw, turning to exit the room. Each calculated step carried the weight of her journey, her struggles crystallizing into an undeniable strength born from resilience. As she stepped away from the office, a rush of adrenaline surged through her veins. This was not just a confrontation, it was an emergence, the reaffirmation of her worth and competence. She would no longer be the woman haunted by betrayal, she had conquered her demons in an arena where shadows no longer held sway. As she walked away, the realization washed over her, Sarah Greene was finally free to pursue her true ambitions, no longer shackled by the echoes of her past. The world awaited, and as the sun streamed down, illuminating her path, self-awareness bloomed. Her transformation was undeniable, a recognition of her competence and strength solidified. In her heart, she understood, the true victory lay not in the confrontation she had faced but in the competence and resolve she had effortlessly achieved. As Sarah stepped into the sunlight, she felt a warmth wash over her, propelling her forward. This was a moment, her achievement. As she reached her car, her phone buzzed with a message from Lisa. They would strategize for the future, decoding and dismantling the potential obstacles ahead. The final strands of doubt unraveled, and with determination, she stepped into a new chapter, one defined by her own choices. Now was the time to remind the world who Sarah Greene truly was. She's unstoppable. This is your moment to seize, don't let it slip away. Subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Seriously, it makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about this ending, we want to hear from you. And finally, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.